We are April and Scott, creators of naughtygym.com, and this is The Naughty Gym Show.
For years, we've been fitness and nutrition coaches to thousands of people through our commercial gyms and online platform. We've also spent nearly a decade in an ever-evolving open relationship.
This show brings together two of our biggest passions, fitness and sex positivity. Our mission is to maximize the physical and mental health of anyone brave enough to explore relationship structures that run counter to societal norms.
We have demolished our old ways of thinking about relationships, and from that rubble, built a life full of happiness, adventure, and vitality. And now we want to help you do the same.
So hop on the treadmill, start the show, and let us teach you how to never stop playing. Welcome back to the Naughty Gym Show. I am your host, April, and this is my co-host. I got nothing today. Scott.
I thought you'd forgotten my name.
You need to scoot closer to me. Booty.
All right. Well, we are back as of last night. We finally got home from another long stretch of being away from home. Where did we go, baby?
So we went to Dallas. We drove to Dallas, which was a 10-hour drive for Purple Party, the Purple Foundation that hosts a big circuit party for the LGBTQ community in Dallas. And we were one of their sponsors. So we went, that started on May 1st through the 5th. We were there in Dallas, and we got to visit with some friends who live in Dallas that we just love to see when we're there. And then some of our friends from Houston, Dave and Andy of Tales of the Lastborns, came and visited us as well. Purple is just an amazing event.
Yeah. So that was a 4-day party, which is tiring for even young people, much less us.
Yeah. Well, I paced myself. I actually 3 of the nights had like 10 hours of sleep.
Well, we knew as sponsors, we needed to be out there and active at the events. But we also had our event coming right on the heels of that, which once the Purple Party was over, we had to leave for El Salvador. Yeah. So one of us had to at least be rested. So you didn't go to all the events that I did in order to kind of save yourself to make sure you had energy for El Salvador. But we have traveled so much this year, and we did the math in the airport coming home yesterday or the day before yesterday. We've actually been gone from home slightly more than every other day since the first of the year. In other words, a little over 3.5 days a week, we've averaged being gone from home this year. And a third of the days have been out of the country. Yeah. 1 out of every 3 days this year, we have been out of the United States. So while that is fun and we appreciate it, it is exhausting. We are worn out and ready for a little bit of a lighter travel schedule.
Yeah. In fact, we have canceled most travel that we had thought we were going to do this summer because we haven't been home. We need to recenter. We need to restructure some things business-wise and do a little self-care. Yeah, we will be home for a while. I've got a girls' trip coming up. And other than that, that's going to be our only travel for quite some time.
Yeah, we were looking at going to Purgatory, but I think that's just too much at this point for us to.
We've got children and grandkids. I need to see my kiddos and the grandbaby and sleep in my bed. And
it's the right decision. When we were discussing it, thinking, it'd be nice to just have the summer off, and we're both like, oh my God, yes, it would be so nice. Well, it became a no-brainer. It's like, obviously neither one of us want to travel anymore for a little while. So we're going to call it off for the summer and just try to catch up on all the things that behind the scenes that we can't get done when we're traveling that much.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big part of it too. There's a lot that we have had on our plate that we've needed to work on. But when you're out of the country, so sometimes the Wi-Fi doesn't work and we're not really still when we're at these events. So it's a constant moving, constant motion. So it'll be nice to just kind of be still and present.
So this episode is about us covering and doing a review of how our retreat in El Salvador went. And it was in a lot of ways, even more incredible than I think we expected.
Yeah.
And in one very obvious way, a lot tougher than we expected, not just on us, but on a lot of our guests too.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with that?
Yeah. Well, so we left straight from Dallas. We drove to Dallas, spent 5 days in Dallas, and flew from Dallas to El Salvador. The day we left, we were going to arrive 2 days early, right? We were
Right.
going to
Yeah.
arrive on the 5th. Our event started on the 7th. Flying in that day, my brother was hospitalized. My brother that I have has been kind of like my guardian growing up. Then my best friend's dog died that same day. Your mother had a hip replacement surgery that was rescheduled, so she was kind of just upset about that.
Yeah.
And then the very next day, you got a stomach bug.
The day before the event was supposed to start, I started feeling a little nausea and just not feeling great. And as the day went on, it was getting worse. And as that night approached, it started getting really bad. I left. We sat down to eat dinner. There were a few guests that had shown up a day early. There were maybe 8 of us at dinner. And you know how sometimes you're going to throw up. You feel those cold sweats come on. Yeah. I was sitting at dinner and I just jumped up and said, I got to go bathroom. Yeah. And I took off and I never came back.
Yeah. You were sick all night long.
And I threw up, I think 5 times that night. And that wasn't the only end things were coming out of. And it was just a brutal stomach bug. Fortunately, and I'd already knew in the middle of that night that there's no way I could get out of the room tomorrow to help with the starting of the event. I just felt too bad. And I was in the bathroom over and over.
Yeah.
Luckily, around 8 or 9 o'clock, you had already been up. You were already greeting guests that were starting to show up. And I felt like I was getting better, but I was terrified to stand up or do anything. But I think it was around 9. I got up, took a quick shower, and just started walking towards, the reception area. And I realized I probably was feeling better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as the day went on, I started gradually getting better and better, a little more energy. I still, over the next day or two, was probably only running at about 80%.
Yeah.
But we thought we were in the clear.
Yeah.
And we were not.
So we've realized that you were patient 0 because this was a stomach bug. And we knew it wasn't the resort's food. We figured this out at the end. Eventually, because they had day passers that weekend and none of them were sick. But I got sick on day 2, but I don't throw up. I have when I get sick, I can't throw up. I have no gag reflex. I've tried to make myself throw up when I have an upset stomach, and I physically cannot throw up. I think had I been able to throw up, I would not have been sick so long. But I started having stomach issues on day 2, and normally I have a stomach of steel. And so I would just kind of I'm just going to suffer with it. I'm going to power through. And I did. And today's day 8.
Yeah. Yours wasn't, at least at that point, as nearly as intense as mine.
No,
but it wouldn't go away.
What I did was I just stopped eating. So on day 2, I had an upset stomach. And so I would just eat like small bites here and there throughout the day and was just trying to stay hydrated. Because I'm like, if I don't eat, I don't have to go to the bathroom. I know this is super sexy talk. But we also had some really aggressive excursions or active excursions where I needed that energy. And so on day 3, when we had a hike up an active volcano, I felt okay, but I didn't eat. And so I'm all these calories. And by the last day of the retreat, it caught up with me. And my body I was weak. I was sick as a dog, could not leave the bed.
Yeah, you were as sick that last day as I was on the first day, and you couldn't leave the room. But in between all of that, over the course of that week, we think it was somewhere around 3 out of every 4 guests also got some variation of this.
And some was really quick.
For most everybody, it lasted about 12 to 15 hours. Yeah. But a few of the guests had it similar to the way they actually were sickest their first day and then kind of was up and down with it for a few days. There were a handful of those, and then a few of them brought it back with them, kind of like you did, and have been battling it mildly since they got back. For most people, thankfully, like me, it was just a half a day up to a full day, and then they were back and running and going great.
Yeah, and what's funny is hearing people on the last day when we're saying goodbyes or the last morning, going, God, this is the best trip I've ever had, even though I spent a day in the
Yeah.
bathroom.
Yeah. So the trip was incredible. We're going to go through everything that we did.
Yeah, those are, yeah, I mean, that was a little bit of a shadow on an amazing trip. And we were able to power through. And even though I was not feeling, I was feeling about 60% the entire time, was still able to really um, have some really good connections, um, made amazing memories.
Yeah. We had, there were 2 doctors that were attending.
There was more than that.
Or maybe
Yeah.
there were several doctors, several medical nurse, experts and stuff, or medical professionals there. And the agreement was by the end of the week, it definitely wasn't food. It was a bug that apparently I started and then gave to everybody there. So,
And nobody's surprised with the amount of people this guy makes out with.
no, yeah, but I was much better behaved this week. All right. So what we're going to do is kind of talk about this retreat and try to highlight especially the way that we have intentionally, and this one was your baby. You did 90% of the work on this one. The vision of how this went and was approached was yours, and probably represents the future direction of Naughty Gym in a large way. So talk about how this event was, in your mind, different than the way most, I don't know if it's fair. Well, I definitely think it's fair to say it's different than most lifestyle events, and maybe singularly unique.
Well, we've said this about all of our events, even our Hito event, that it's not sex forward. The events that we create here locally in the Huntsville area, the weekend events, they're not sex forward, they're connection focused. And so we've said that for every event. Hito, it's probably more sex forward because that's just the nature of Hito, right?
Right.
But because this was something that we created from the ground up, this retreat, we could really make it as connection focused as we wanted to. And that was something I wanted to make sure that this was not just a typical lifestyle event, but I wanted every guest to feel refilled and refreshed when they left. I didn't want them to feel beat down and like they had just partied so hard that they need a week to recover from. And so I wanted it to feel more like a retreat than a lifestyle party.
Yeah, and this is not a resort that is typically lifestyle or even clothing optional or even all inclusive. It was
Right.
They built this trip in conjunction with us from the ground up, like you said, and we were able to make it whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
And that when we say it's not sex forward, we just mean that we make sure that it is obvious the focus of the event is not on getting to the playroom. I'm not saying that all events just are focused on that, but you can sort of feel when you go to a weekend hotel takeover or a house party or something like that, a lot of times you can feel the pressure. People are there. Maybe this is the 1 or 2 times they can get a babysitter a year, and they're like, hey, we got to make it happen if it's going to happen. And we try to actively avoid that sort of situation and that kind of pressure. Sex happens. People make great connections and they that stuff happens, but it is because of the connections, not something that people are focused on when they get there. I don't know if that's an accurate way of describing it.
Yeah, so we set an itinerary based on that model. So there weren't super late nights. The latest the night we had 2 party nights that the DJ played until midnight. The other 3 days at 10 p.m., which is the resort's kind of music curfew, anyways, was 10 p.m. And then people went to sleep or they stayed up at the lagoon pool and kind of had conversations. But we had yoga and mindset or meditation at 7 a.m. Yeah. And those were well attended. We had 2 days where we had workshops in the morning, but every day we had on that itinerary a daily intention.
Yeah.
So like day 1 said, today I arrive with curiosity. I soften into this space, into my body, and into what's possible. Every day we kind of built on whatever that daily intention was. So on the first day, we did our connection circles. And the reason for that first day's intention is because a lot of times people come into these anxious, and so they're not really present in their body. Their brain is spinning, and mostly I'm talking about me.
Which is hilarious considering you've been to 1,000
Yeah,
different lifestyle
I
events
know.
now.
But there's a couple things that came out of this trip. I came back with my voice, which I typically lose at events.
Usually, like by Hito, it's by day 2.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm not even starting to lose my voice.
So we realize we know what the problem is now. It's yelling over loud music is what
Yeah,
causes,
yeah, and
because we
not
never had that.
resting and being stressed out and highly anxious, and I wasn't for the most part on this
Well,
retreat.
I wanted to go back to the parties ending at midnight 2 nights and then like 10 the other nights. That sounds crazy early for a lifestyle event, and by comparison, it is. One of the things though that was interesting about this place in El Salvador is the sunset was at a much earlier, like it was dark by like 6:30.
Yeah,
And so even though we cut it off those 2 nights at midnight, that was still 5.5 hours of nighttime
yeah,
atmosphere.
yeah.
But so it didn't, it actually seemed like it lasted later into the night than it actually
Right.
did, because there was so much,
That's true. I
the
didn't think
sun went
about that.
down so early. But so before we're going to go into, the kind of the step by step, what all the things that we did that made this trip so much different. But before we do that, we wanted to just briefly mention a couple of other things that we've got coming up here soon, a couple of other trips that if you want to join us on, you still can.
Yes. So we have holidays, and we actually have 2 spots left for holidays. That's our party in the Smoky Mountains. It's a 18-room cabin, November 1st through the 6th of 2025. So this coming fall. And every day we're going to celebrate a different holiday. So Halloween is the first night, and then we have Friendsgiving, then we have Christmas Eve, Christmas, and New Year's is the last night. And every day is a kind of naughty spin on that holiday. So like we'll do Dirty Santa and a tacky Christmas sweater moonshine crawl. And so like I said, we have 2 spots left for that. You can go to naughtygym.com.
It was sold out, but we've had 2
Yeah.
cancellations.
Naughtygym.com, go to our events page, and you can get the details there. Schedule a Zoom with us if you have any questions. And then November 13th through the 16th, we have our men's and women's retreat. So the women's retreat is Wild and Wise, and it is for women going through or who have been through menopause, peri or menopausal women. And you don't have to be lifestyle, you just have to be sex positive. And I think we have 2 king suites left and some shared rooms left for that, but those have booked really quickly. And we are bringing it. I'm partnered with Catherine with Expansive Connection on this project. We're bringing in some therapists, hormone therapists, and some other workshops we're going to do to help women thrive through menopause and not suffer through it. And sometimes you can feel when you're battling these symptoms like brain fog and hot flashes and mood swings
Lowered
and
libido.
lower libido, weight gain, weight loss. I mean, hip pain, so many different symptoms. You can feel like an island, like I'm the only one going through this. Am I going crazy? And it'll just be nice to have these connections with other women who are going through similar things.
And that perimenopause starts at a much earlier age for women than I realized.
It can start as early as 30. Typically, it starts about 35.
Yeah, so if you're over that age, this is definitely something, that should be of interest to you. And at that same time, the 13th to the 16th, the men will be doing our retreat. And both of these, by the way, are also in the Smoky Mountains, like our holidays event is. But we have, of course, separate cabins, and these groups are not going to be mixing during this. But our king suites are sold out for the men's retreat. We do have a few of the bunk room beds left, which is much more expensive. I mean, much less expensive than the king suites. It's $1,450 for the king suites. Again, they're sold out. Bunk room spots are only $950, and it's pretty all inclusive. There's a couple days we'll go to breakfast. That's not included, but all your meals are included in the activities and things like that. But this is a brand new cabin. It is monstrous, and it's got all the fun toys. It looks like a giant man cave. It is incredible. It's got an indoor basketball court, indoor walk-in swimming pool, indoor theater, game room, pool tables, hot tubs,
Pickleball court.
pickleball court. That's not indoors, but it is covered outside.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing pickleball lessons for anybody that's interested, free lessons, just
Yeah.
teach you how to play the sport because it's a great sport to take up if you're older. It's easy to learn. But we're gonna have like poker tournaments, and we're gonna cook steaks and drink whiskey.
So go to naughtygym.com for the details on that. You get very excited. I love it, but we got to keep rolling. Naughtygym.com events page, and you can they can book straight yours, or they have to do a Zoom?
No, they have to do a Zoom with me on that.
Okay. The women you can book straight on our website, or you can book a Zoom. It's just up to you. And then we have our Hedonism, Be Better at Being Bad takeover, January 3rd through the 10th. We are still getting our speaker schedule together, and we may be bringing in some new speakers this year. So that schedule should be released soon, but you can book online straight at Hedonism's website, January 3rd through the 10th, 2026. And
if you, in fact, that's the only way. You have to go to their website or call them. You can't book through us. And it is not a group. It's a full resort takeover. So if you are there during those dates, you are part of our group, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
This will be our 3rd year. Can't wait for it. It's been fantastic every year, and it's one of our favorite things on the calendar.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Back to our show and our review of our El Salvador event. You mentioned this. We started this on the first day because of something you created a while back. We do it at all our events called connection circles.
Yeah. So in the men, I've found out you do a little bit different than we do. The women do ours. When we started doing connection circles, it was because on the last day of one of our events, all of the women got together on the last day, and we're kind of like having some really good, deep conversations, cutting through all the bullshit that we had kind of walked through the first 4 days. And what I mean by that is a lot of times women come into these spaces coming from some jaded history with other women where maybe they don't trust women, or they don't have any real good female friends in their life that they can really depend on and be vulnerable with. And so the purpose of these connection circles for the women is not to sit around and say, how long have you been in the lifestyle? Are you full swap? Are you soft swap? It's to cut through that bullshit, because we can have those conversations around the pool. It's to get really deep very quickly, to help disarm ourselves on day one and create a safe space so these women now can trust each other, possibly with their husbands, or just to be a friend for them. Right. So we start with, how are you feeling coming into this week? Are you anxious? Are you excited? Or what are you anxious about? What are you excited about? And just it organically opens up a conversation with a group of women that is very authentic, very stripped down, very vulnerable. Some women are crying, but the women walk away feeling like, these are my girls. These are my friends. It's a sisterhood. And it's just a really beautiful thing that you don't get to experience in the real world.
And honestly, this group, we were 64 people there. 4 of us were staff, we're 6th, but this was an amazing group of people.
Yeah, very intelligent,
successful people. And it was just an amazing collection of people from different countries, from different backgrounds. Really was great. And the guy circle, we do it a little bit differently. We go around the circle, and each guy takes about, depending on the size of the group, 3 to 5 minutes just to give a brief background of how you got in the lifestyle, how long you've been in it.
And that's good for the guys, because a lot of times guys have a harder time talking. Right. So you make them talk, which is a good thing. I don't make all of the women talk, but I think that's a good thing for the men, because a lot of times it's harder for men to open up.
Yeah. And the women tend, in your group, they just do it voluntarily. And, and almost all of them will talk at some point, where the guys, if we kind of didn't have a little more structure to it, might just opt out of it. But it ends up being a very powerful experience, because you end up seeing that everybody there, especially if you're new, you tend to go into these things thinking, well, everybody's going to be like these professional swingers, and they're ready to rock and roll, and they have no problems. It's easy for them. And you find out it's almost nobody is it that way for. Everybody has their struggles, might be a little bit different from one person to the next, but it's relieving to find out, hey, everybody struggles in their own way, and we're all here to just try to make good connections and enjoy our life. So those are the connection circles. We do those on the first day. And then one of the things that I thought was really cool that I had no interest in doing because of the time. Like I knew that there might be the possibility that I'd stay up a little later than you.
Yeah.
Was that in the morning times we would have like yoga or meditation, and one of the first mornings, Coach Cara, our coach,
Yeah.
one of our coaches, did a kin stretch class
with sound bath. That was wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. So she did a kin stretch, and then one of our guests actually brought their sound bath with them. And so did that while we were doing our stretch. And Cara is just so good at what she does. Just because everybody had just traveled and stuff, just opening up the hips, releasing the low back. It was just an amazing on their yoga shallow right on the ocean with the sun coming up over the cliffs. It was just incredible.
And it's 7 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
on a lifestyle, we hate the term, but swinger type vacation. You had how many down there?
Gosh, 35,
35 or
36.
so people
yeah.
at 7 in the morning in a foreign country the day after travel, getting up to do that session. So it was really impactful. We heard so many compliments about that event and how it sort of kicked off the week for people. We also had Dragonfly, who came with us, and she did 2 of her classes or workshops. Yeah. One was called Kiss Me Orgasmic. One was called Touch Me Orgasmic.
Right. Yeah.
And those were done in sort of we call it the lobby, but it's not fair to call a lobby at this hotel because almost everything is outside at this resort. First of all, this place is unreal. If you've never seen it, go to our socials and kind of see some of the highlights. But this place, there's tree houses and black sand beaches made out of, volcano dust, I guess. I don't know.
You love that black sand beach.
I do. I love it. And there's boulders everywhere, and it's just this really rugged, unique
Anyways,
terrain.
go to our socials to see it. But yeah, so she did her 2 workshops that were like partner workshops, Kiss Me Orgasmic and Touch Me Orgasmic. And we got really great feedback. We a lot of times don't go to those kind of workshops because it gives us a chance to kind of rest and prepare for the rest of the day. But we heard glowing reviews. And then we had one night a Mayan blessing ceremony on the beach, which was interesting. It would have been better had there been a smaller group.
Because pretty much everybody, if not everybody, I think the whole group showed up. There may have been 1 or 2 that were sick in their room.
Yeah.
But it was 60 people out there, all dressed in white, from head to toe. We're on the beach.
Like a good cult.
Yeah. Nobody knows it yet, but we're slowly
we started our cult.
Yeah, you're the charter members of the cult.
This was actually the Kool-Aid.
But we had a local.
It looks really cool.
It was a local female Mayan or shaman priestess.
Yes.
And she came with her son, who was going to be the translator because she didn't speak any English or very little. And, she has this little ceremonial bonfire and these little flecks of something that she puts in a bowl with fire and goes around and says things to you.
Gives a blessing to each. So she did a blessing to each woman.
Yep.
And, she did blows the smoke around you and then says something in.
Most of us couldn't understand.
Right. And then her translator, who was her son, which was very sweet to see, he also did not speak very clear English.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit hard. And so after a while, it's hard to keep interest because you don't really understand what's going on. But when you're the one getting the blessing, you can understand what they're saying because you're closer and you can hear it. But it was a cool experience. There was some in our group that opted to do their own Temescal Mayan blessing, which is kind of like a rebirthing ceremony. And we saw them go in and they came out about an hour and a half later. And it's almost, they said it was, you go into the Temescal. And you can actually Google El Salvador Temescal, and it's the #1 location this resort offers.
And Temescal, by the way, looks like a brick igloo.
Yeah, and it's hotter than hot yoga, they said. But they all came out weeping and in tears, and there was apparently some amazing breakthroughs and some really cool bonding experiences that these couples had.
We did have one girl pass out apparently from the heat. But I don't know why I'm laughing about that. But when we say it's,
laugh at that.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm laughing about
or
that.
even bring that up.
And I know, and you know who you are. So sorry that I just laughed at you. But it gets really hot. And I think it gets progressively hotter. They go in for they can only stay in there for 10 or 15 minutes and have to come out to let the body cool. And then the next session levels up. Mm-hmm. And, for 10 or 15 more minutes, it's even hotter in there. But that was not on our itinerary. That was just
Yeah, they
dozen or so
decided
of
to
them
do
went in
it.
to
And
do it together because
yeah.
they had gotten so close. They wanted to have that experience.
But that was part of what we built into the schedule, some downtime where they could do what they wanted to do. And we had two excursions that were optional. One was the active volcano hike, which was a moderate hike. It was absolutely beautiful. You get to the top of the volcano and you look down, and there's these crystal blue sulfur lake.
Lake in the in the
Yeah.
bottom or in the center of the volcano, way
Yeah.
down.
And then our second excursion was a volcano hike. I mean, a waterfall hike where we hiked down to some waterfalls and got to swim. And
And these were not easy hikes. They say moderate, but if your idea of hiking is level terrain, strolling through the wilderness, these were tougher
these were
hikes. I mean,
some
you were
good ass
by the time
workouts.
we got to the top of the volcano, we were winded
Yeah.
and ready for the rest up there. And the waterfall hike was shorter, but it was, I mean, it was
Deep.
like going straight up and down ladders to get in and out of this gorge
Yeah.
where the
Yeah.
waterfalls were. But I mean, yeah, if you came in there with no fitness level, they might have had to send somebody in after you on that waterfall hike.
Yeah, I agree.
Trying to
Yeah.
come back up.
That waterfall hike is what put me over the edge. I think that zapped the rest of my energy.
Yeah, that was the day
That
when,
was
when
the
we got
last
back
day.
when we got back from that waterfall hike, you never
Went straight to the room.
I don't think you ever left the room again
Yeah,
until
I
we
didn't.
flew out. So and the reason we like this itinerary is because everybody got a touch of experiencing the community of El Salvador, some of the natural wonder of that. It's an incredibly beautiful country. And to experience some of the culture with the shaman, the Mayan blessing, and
Yeah.
all of the local farm to table food menu items that were served, which the restaurant was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, Noe Beach House. Their food is incredible.
So this was not a party, even though it was, so much as it was an experience of a different culture together with a bunch of people in open relationships.
Yeah. And just looking around the resort and seeing the way people were connecting with each other it was magical. Another thing that we loved about this resort in particular is the community outreach work that they do. So the local community, there's a lot of children, they have a local English school, and it's very poverty stricken around that area. And so this resort gives back so much to the community. They have so many different things. They had a GoFundMe because it was Mother's Day while we were there. So they had a GoFundMe for some of the local mothers. We did a fitness class for the local English school, and there was like 50 kids there.
Yeah,
Ages like 3 and 4 to like 18 or 19.
I don't think there was any kids that old. I think because I took the older kids, and I would say the oldest ones were in the 13 to 14 range. But yeah, I had my group was like 9 to 14, and I think you had like 8 and under.
Oh gosh, and the little kids. So we just did like a jungle zoo workout where we did like movements that mimic different animals, and I had a translator with me, and the kids loved it. And at one point, we were playing on a sand soccer field,
like a beach soccer field. Yeah.
And at one point, these 3 little girls that were like 3 and 4 years old walked up to me and handed me a dead pigeon
as almost like a gift offering or something, which was pitiful and adorable.
I didn't know what to do.
You were telling them, no, put it down, put it down.
The translator said she just told him to put it down to sleep. Just let it sleep. But they were just the sweetest and that kind of thing. And a lot of our guests came out and helped with that. And then
what was beautiful about this is we've done summer camps when we used to have the commercial gyms for kids for years. And a lot of times the only way we even get kids there is for parents to almost force their children out of their rooms to come do something.
Because ground them from their iPad.
Yeah, they would say that if you want to play on your computer this week at all, your phone this week, you have to go to the camp. And so we get all these sort of kids that are begrudgingly there because their parents are making them. We had 50 something kids from that community who acted like we were bringing them all PlayStation 5s if they were American kids. They were so excited to be there and do that workout and had so much fun. And after it was over, the resort let them have a little pool party and brought them ice cream. It was just, it was unexpectedly maybe the most rewarding thing I've done in a while.
Yeah, for sure. And then they also have a dog rescue. So some of our guests went and helped with that. In fact, they're bringing all these stray dogs to this dog rescue. I think it's called the Impossible Rescue Mission or something like that. And they're trying to train the workers how to tend to them. They want to bring in vets that will help them get spayed and neutered. And we're actually gonna post some of their GoFundMe links in our show notes if anybody wants to help or reach out to them. It's just getting started. One of our friends and guests was able to go one day because she grew up on a farm, and she was able to teach them how to give these dogs that shots of antibiotics and stuff that they needed. Some of the animals were wounded from being hit by cars and stuff like that. And so the resort is just really trying to give back and pour back into the local community. And
we asked all of our guests if they had any school supplies laying around, or old electronics, old phones, old iPads, things like that they weren't using, anything that could be a benefit to bring them. And man, they showed up with so much stuff. We had like 2 tables just piled full,
and school supplies and old iPads and iPhones and things like condoms and Plan B and antibiotics. And I mean, it was overwhelming how kind and giving our guests were.
And that's a thing that you don't tend to get in a lot of these, or at any of lifestyle trips. And it's something that kind of fills us up, makes us feel like we're doing some good. And that's what we want in these trips, is for you to get to experience the local culture and community, maybe give back a little bit. And it was just such a different experience that we're so thankful we got to be a part of. On the final night, we had what's called a full moon ceremony. Now, this was also your baby, sort of the climax of the event. And the thing that I kind of knew a little bit about what was happening, but not much. You planned it all and you were going to run it. However, that was also the last day was the day we went on the waterfall hike. And when we got back from that, was when you just fell off the cliff, essentially, and could not get out of the room. You just lived in the bathroom. And so I had to scramble to kind of lead the charge on this ceremony, and you had to stay in the room and miss the entire thing.
And I was really looking forward to that. So we had hired a DJ that week for our parties, DJ Lyra. He did one of our pool parties, and then we had 2 nighttime parties, the glow night, which was amazing. And then the full moon ceremony was the second night that he was playing at. And he was a phenomenal DJ, but I was really looking forward to the full moon ceremony more than anything.
Yeah, well, how the full moon ceremony ended up going is we started that night with dinner, and then there were some announcements about what the ceremony was going to be about. But everybody after the announcements came up one at a time and got a floating lantern. And lit the candle. But they get the lantern, and then they go back to the table with their a gold Sharpie marker, and on the sides of the lantern they can write intentions, affirmations, something maybe they want to work on, or
something they want to let go of,
or maybe they have a sick child or something. And
it was all about setting, because the whole week was about setting intentions. And this Sunday was Mother's Day, and so we kind of want to honor. I wanted to honor the women as well. And then we had been talking every day about setting intentions and what we want for ourselves, and being connected to ourselves and being connected to our partners. And so the goal was on that last night then to set intentions moving forward. What do you want to let go of? What is something that you want to call in to your life for your past, your vision, for your future? What do you want? And so that was the point. And you could write it on the different sides of the lantern and then float it.
Well, so once they got their intentions written on the lantern, then they would come back up. We would light the little candle that was inside each lantern, and then they would take it to the infinity pool that looked out over the ocean, and each person would just set their lantern in there and let it float. And it just and the pool also had built-in lights that rotated colors. So once we got all the lanterns set in the pool, the lights underneath it kept changing colors, and it created this beautiful backdrop for to start the party. And the party started with 2 of our guests that were coming. I guess we can say, we can say their names.
So they're acrobats. We met them at Hito last year.
This year at our event.
This year, and they performed in the talent show, and they are acrobat acrobatic dancers. I don't know if that's the right thing to call them. On
That's
cruise
seems to be
ships.
accurate to
Yeah.
what they do.
And so we brought them in to perform in El Salvador twice.
So they're up on the pool deck with the infinity pool and all the lanterns behind them, doing this really incredible act of physicality, but it was sensual at the same time. They're doing, I mean, like
We'll post some of it on our socials too. It's
what
beautiful.
they're able to do is
I hate I missed
physically impossible for most people. I mean, they're doing one arm handstands and balancing on each other's heads, and I mean, it's just incredible. But that was kind of the kickoff to the party.
Yeah.
And then the dance party started. It was sort of a beach dance party, but you could be in the pool, you could be in the sand. And they brought out all these homemade decorative cookies that the resort had made, and chocolate dipped bananas. And, you know, the bar was open. It was just this really magical night. And towards the end, people started coming up. And this is another part that I hate that you missed, is it almost became a processional of people coming up to tell me how much they had enjoyed that week. And, you know, it's always good to hear that. You worry, you wonder, it's good to hear it, but you also worry, well, would anybody tell you that it was a bad week, even if it wasn't? And I constantly kept asking, I hope that if you got sick, it didn't ruin your week. And everybody says, no, this was a magical, defining trip for us and our relationship. Thank you so much. We kept getting a lot of that kind of stuff, and you didn't get to hear any of it.
Yeah.
You were stuck in the room.
Some people sent me messages, which was really lovely.
Yeah. Another highlight of the trip was the staff. The staff of this resort, though they never have dealt with anything quite like this before, they embraced it. They treated us like family.
Well, and they said also that our community, that they've never seen a community like ours, how respectful they were, how kind they were, how well they treated the staff. I mean, it just was so cohesive. The way the staff worked with us and the way our community worked with the staff was just really a beautiful thing to see. But yeah, their staff is just loving and kind and giving. They're sex positive and easy to work with.
Yeah. At that final dinner, we asked, we mentioned and thanked the staff for everything they did, and asked all of our guests to give them a round of applause, which I expected kind of a smattering of applause type thing, but it was the single loudest thing that happened all week at the resort. I mean, everybody really had an incredible experience there, and we can't thank the staff and the resort for going out of their way to make this something unforgettable.
Yeah. They set up this amazing Moroccan style playroom for us, which was a surprise for our guests because, we don't love playrooms, but we still did want to create sexy spaces. And it was it's where we did our workshops in the lobby, I guess, but not really the lobby. And they had pillows and mattresses and rugs and candles and drapery. And it was just really a beautiful, beautiful place that we hear got used pretty frequently.
Yeah. Well, I actually walked through there one night when it was a pretty big group in there having fun. But the overall vibe of this trip was just is very different. It was slower and more deliberate and more connection focused, and in a way that I think really resonated with people. So, what is next for us? Is this the type of thing, as you see Naughty Gym progressing, that we want to lean into?
Oh, this is all we will be leaning into. Intentional stuff. So yeah, we are going to, for the next few months, be restructuring, recentering Naughty Gym, the online platform, figuring some things out. But yeah, I have no desire to host not host, like I'll go to other events, but produce different types of events other than intentional connection focused events. Yep. Those are the kind that I get excited about. Those are the kind that fill me, that don't drain me, that don't leave me afterwards going, God damn, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah, because we really, other than the sickness, we're emotionally tired because we've been on the go, but that trip wasn't tiring like a week at Hito tends to be.
Right.
It was different.
Yeah. I'm tired now because of the past 6 months.
Yeah. Right.
Not because of this past week. This week, even though I was not feeling 100%, I felt so honored just to be in the presence of our guests and to start new friendships and connect with old friends, and it was just such a filling week, such an amazing thing
And
to
there's so many,
experience.
options already out there for the more party oriented type events. This is really our brand,
Yeah.
and what we want to focus on going forward, so that all of our events are something that people can look forward to as a change of pace and a different type of experience than the usual. What we got coming up on the platform itself?
Well, we've got our Bright Spots challenge starting this Saturday. So one of my one-on-one clients, Christopher, um, a lot of times when we're talking about health and fitness, we can get very dogmatic about it, where like I didn't follow my diet today, so that's bad, or I didn't get in 3 workouts this week, so I failed. And so I try with my one-on-one clients to really shift their perspective, the way that they look at things, and make them find their bright spot every day. So you didn't get protein at every meal today, but did you get protein at one meal? Okay, good. Let's build on that. Instead of, at the end of the day going, God, I really fucked up today. I forgot to meal prep and I didn't wake up early enough to get my workout in. But what did go well?
And you can celebrate those little
You can
wins, even
celebrate
if
them.
not everything went flawlessly that
Right.
day.
And it's just reframing the way we talk to ourselves, reframing our internal narrative. So I because of the conversation I had with him, I told him I wanted bright spots every day. And so I made it a challenge for our entire community. We're going to start, we do bright spots every Friday, anyways, where we're looking through the week at the different bright spots. And so starting Saturday, we are doing a 7-day bright spots challenge. And part of the bright spots challenge is not just to celebrate your own wins, but to celebrate other people's wins. Because when are we celebrated outside of like our home? Like we celebrate each other, but like you're not going to work typically and somebody being like, hey, good job on eating your protein today, or good job connecting with that old friend that you hadn't talked to in a year. But I mean, it's just nice to have positive affirmation coming from other people and to help ingrain that in yourself, to have that more positive narrative. So we're starting that Saturday in our Naughty Gym platform. I'm still working to get my functional bodybuilding course set up. It's all built out. I've recorded all the videos. I had some trouble with our platform getting some of the things loaded. So I will be focusing on that this week and have that done soon. Yep, I've got a girls' trip the 1st of June.
Not our retreat, but just
No,
a
first
private,
weekend of June. Yeah.
a
Some
personal
friends.
vacation with some friends.
Yeah, which is my first personal vacation.
Have you done a girls trip since we've been married or
I don't think
together?
so.
So this will be the first time
Yeah.
really kind of away from me where you've
Yeah.
been going like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I'm
Yeah,
ready.
I postponed my figure competition that I was going to do in July, just because I need to focus on some self-care for a little bit, and I need to be home and present and not stressing out about um, my workouts and stuff. And
Yeah,
so,
because a figure competition is not, this maybe sounds strange to say, it's not the healthiest thing. It's not terribly unhealthy, but
no,
it's not optimal.
well, it's not something that is sustainable, but you're right. It can be exhausting when I have a lot of other things on my plate. So I just want to be present for a little bit, and I'm working on some self-care. I started with a new therapist, and need to schedule some more sessions with her.
I've got one big thing on my plate for the next foreseeable future, which I sort of offhandedly mentioned to you, but hadn't really said. I am now close to 24 hours without a Diet Dr. Pepper.
Is that true? I
That is
just put Diet Pepper zeros.
Yeah, I know. I haven't drank them though.
Oh.
I'm trying to break this awful habit I have of drinking Diet Dr. Pepper nonstop all day.
Yeah.
And I know it's not good for me, so don't send me hate mail. But I've been doing it for a pretty good while, and I've got to break that. It's the nastiest, most unhealthy vice that I have. And so I'm really working on trying to do that. I've got my Mio energy drops that I put in my water that can keep the caffeine headaches at bay. But I've got to break this cycle. So I'm working. That's my big focus right now, is to get
proud
the
of you.
diet.
You can do this. Yeah. Oh, I do want to say thank you to a few people brought us gifts in El Salvador.
Oh yeah.
So our friend Roderick brought you Laffy Taffy and me black jelly beans.
I got 2 people brought me
and then our
Laffy
friends
Taffy.
from our international friends from New Mexico brought me black jelly beans, and they brought you Laffy Taffy. Yeah, which you finished immediately.
Oh yeah, those were not something I.
They're so good too.
Those were not a thing I savored all week. They were gone that night.
Yeah, I love black jelly beans. And then one of our guests made us, who does ceramics, made me a little like ring ceramic dish that has badass from my keynote speech.
Kind of carved into the bottom of it.
Stamped into the bottom.
And made me like a ceramic
infinity.
It looks like an infinity loop kind of thing. And in the loop was carved the words "Wild Love," off the book I'm trying to write. But and that was where yours came from too. Was your speech and the book you're going to be writing about being a badass as a woman. So that was really nice and thoughtful.
Very touching. Those are my favorite kinds of gift. My love language is gift giving, but it's not like expensive and extravagant gifts. It's just a gift or something that shows that in this moment you were thinking of me. And it's just so thoughtful and just incredible that people thought enough to do that for us.
Yeah, so it really was.
Sincerely appreciated it.
It really was a life-changing type experience for us, and we can't wait to do it again. And that's an announcement we need to make, is that we've already contracted for next year at the same resort.
Yeah.
The dates are, what is it, the 13th, October?
October 12th. So this time we are doing a Monday through a Saturday. And I have to look at 2026 because I keep looking at 2025 and it's not 20.
But instead of being May of next year, like it was this year.
It's going to be in October of 2026, the 12th through the 17th. Booking is not open yet because we are giving all of our guests first dibs at booking before we open up everything on our website. But again, the dates will be October 12th through the 17th. So if you think that you may want to go ahead and mark those dates on your calendar, and we will be announcing soon when you're able to schedule a Zoom with us.
And when you see it publicly come up, and some of the rooms will already be sold from our guests that'll be returning from this year, but jump on it quick if it's something you want to do, because it sold out fairly quickly.
It sold out very quickly, and we had a wait list very quickly. And you get, first come, first serve is how we book the rooms. So there's only 12 tree houses. And then it goes to the beachfront bungalows, jungle bungalows, and then the bunkhouse suites. So you got to book quick when it opens up.
And we promise you this will be, if you didn't get to go and think you're interested, this trip is unlike anything you've ever done. And it really is a beautiful experience. And we hope we can fill it up again next year. And there's the possibility that if it fills up quickly, the resort has held back an extra week, so we could actually do 2 weeks in a row. We'd have 2 different retreats back to back. So we're really excited about that, but we got to fill the first one first before we get there.
Yeah. And now a word from our sponsors, Fountain of Shrooms. Just kidding. They're not really a sponsor, but they are our dear friends, Andy and Dave from Tales of the Lastborns. Fountain of Shrooms is their new company, their new baby, and it's just gone live, fountainofshrooms.com. So if you've been listening for any length of time, you know that I already take lion's mane and cordyceps and reishi mushrooms for cognitive function, energy, and focus, mood. And they have a line called Risma, and it is a blend of lion's mane, cordyceps, and reishi. I think I'm saying that right. Mushroom, but it comes from the extracts, not the powder like some of the Rise and other cheap brands use. This is an amazing supplement that anybody can take if you want improvement with your cognitive function and energy levels, mood, just all of it. Supplements are moving in this direction now, though. where you want to get off all of the bullshit that we put into our bodies, especially for me, where I'm already dealing with brain fog because of perimenopause. Anything that can help my brain function and my ADHD naturally, I want to take. And so I've, eliminated a lot of crap from my diet and stuff, and use this.
And these are very good friends of ours. We know how much work they've put into this, and
the quality that goes into it. This is not garbage supplements.
No, this is a really exciting product. We can't wait to watch how their company develops, and we're excited for them. They just launched it, so go to their website and order some.
Yeah, so it's fountainofshrooms.com. They're also on Instagram as Fountain of Shrooms, and the name of their product is called Rizma, like charisma, but Riz, get the Riz.
I don't know if that's what it's actually about.
Anyways, there you have it. So thanks for listening, guys. We're excited to be back in the States. We're excited to kind of recenter, restructure, and pour into ourselves for a little bit, take some time for each other. But for now, join us at naughtygym.com. If you're not a Naughty Gym member yet, we would love to have you in the platform, in the community. We go live every Wednesday night with our community. We do things like our 7-day Bright Spots challenge. We provide fitness and nutrition. We provide fitness and nutrition, 6 workouts a week, programmed for at home, little to no equipment, and fully stocked gym. And again, you just go to naughtygym.com to sign up to become one of our members. And if that's it, I'll remind you to never stop playing.